Begin with the session, I would like to wish everyone a very happy Republic Day to all the members present here. Let us begin now. Continuous learning is the minimum requirement for success in any field. Good evening, everyone. I, Aisha Khanam, Head of Business Administration Department, take an initiative to welcome everyone for the third day of this 3 days national webinar on research skills and publications. Under the initiative of IQAC and Research Cell of St. Teresa Degree College for Women, in collaboration with SEMS Welfare Foundation, it is our privilege to wholeheartedly welcome you. On behalf of our college, I take the initiative to host today's session. First of all, I welcome our principal, Dr. Sister Prema, for allowing us and giving us an opportunity to conduct this session. A warm welcome to you, sister, in your absence. And I extend a warm welcome to our resource person, Dr. N. Safrin, ma'am. Ma'am, your expertise in this field of research is making a great contribution in our FDP and in the lives of our participants. Wholeheartedly welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aisha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And I also welcome our Vice Principal and IQAC Director, Mrs. Malika, ma'am, our Academic Coordinator, Mr. Rajesh, sir, and our coordinating team who have organized this webinar. A warm welcome to everyone present here. And now I welcome all the dear participants who are academicians, research scholars, and students from various colleges. A warm welcome to everyone present here. Before we begin the session, now I would like to give a small glimpse of both the sessions, day 1 and day 2. Let us review day 1 session, what were the topics covered by our resource person. That was an introduction to research. We were able to learn more about research, how to choose a topic, research and academic skills, LSRW skills, scanning, skimming, and all. In day 2, we were able to learn how to write research paper and publication in recognized journal, where we were able to learn about abstracts, guidelines of abstract, mistakes in abstract, research gap, 7 essential ingredients, editing paper and selecting best journal for our research. And today's topic is how to apply and get research grants and funds with best approach. Now, without doing a more ado, I would like to hand over to our resource person. Over to you, Safrin ma'am.
Thank you, Aisha. Very good evening to all of you. And thank you, Aisha, for wonderfully giving a recap of all the sessions that we had so far. And we have reached the final day. And today I'm excited to talk about another topic, which is very much interconnected with what we were doing from day 1, right? So, yeah, I'll just share my screen. Just give me a minute to do that. My screen is visible, right? Can you all see
Yes,
my
ma'am, we can.
screen?
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
okay. Okay, thank you. Today we are going to talk about research grants and funds. So remember what we were discussing from day 1, and Aisha has also given a short recap of the same. We started with what was research, and on day 2, we were talking about how to write a successful research paper. Now imagine that you know everything about research, you know the niche area, you have developed yourself as a researcher by publishing successful research papers. You have a very good profile and you are becoming an expert in your field. And you know that this is your area that you would want to continuously keep doing research. For example, if you see once you finish PhD, many people stop there, but there are people who pursue their postdoctoral fellowship, which is also like kind of a grant or like a scholarship, which enables the researcher to further continue with whatever research he or she has done during her PhD. Maybe it's an extension of the PhD program. And there are people who go ahead and take up research projects and continue exploring. They don't just stop with their PhD. Although most of us might think that the whole goal of doing research is to get a doctorate degree and stop there. No, most of us are not doing that. Some of them, yes, they stop there, they take up jobs in academia and they continue. But then even after taking up jobs in academia, you see people get involved, assistant professors, associate professors, they get involved in different research projects and they continuously keep exploring their passion for that particular research. And that's what today we are going to look into. What are research grants? What are research funds? And how can you prepare yourself for this? We assume that now you have become a good researcher, your profile is built up, and that you will have done by continuously publishing in good journals with a high impact factor. And now you yourself are passionate to carry a particular research. See, mostly when it comes to research grants and funds, it's not like any a study program. A PhD is a study program. You need to write papers, probably you need to write some coursework exams and things like that, and then you publish your thesis. But when it comes to grants and funds, it's more of very practical oriented projects. You are dealing with real world, real time problems. You are planning to work out solutions to certain problems and certain whole activity that you will involve yourself in, not just you alone. Most of the time these kind of research projects are taken up by team. It's taken up by universities. It's taken up by a department in the university or in a college. So if you see in India, the popular funding agencies, ICSSR, Indian Council of Social Sciences and Research, mostly it focuses on humanities, sciences, all different streams. And mostly the colleges or the universities which associate with this particular institution, they try to apply for certain grants. There are long term grants, there are short term grants, there are many different types of grants and funding policy programs. So once they take it up, one department will go through all the process. They apply, and once they get selected, they're sanctioned a particular amount of money, and they start working on that project. Why do you think this happens? Because all of them are PhD holders, they already have a job, they are earning well, but still, why do you think they want to involve themselves in this particular project and continue, and they take up a whole responsibility? It's obviously an additional work, right? Because they go to, when they're working in academia, it's taking classes, there's a lot of workload there. But apart from that, it's out of their interest and passion, they would want to carry on with the project. And definitely this adds a lot of benefits to their profile. Personally, it enhances their profile. Academically, they get some points for this, like how you get points when you publish papers, right? There are certain points that's added to your profile. And apart from all these points, also, they have this label that they're associated with a national level project. They have done something that is impacting the society in a good way. And this is where you see all the theories that you learn as a researcher, or all the lessons that you have learned as a researcher, you start applying practically. So this is one very significant thing about grants and funds that we need to know before we start. And most of it that I'm saying, most of the components that I'm dealing with are something that will be very much overlapping with the components of the research paper that we did yesterday. We saw about literature review, methodologies, and purpose of the research. All this is something that's going to come in place for the research proposal that we'll be looking into while you are seeking a research funding. So let's start from the basic. What is research funding? Research funding is nothing but, the word funding comes in, so automatically you can relate it to finance. It's monetary support that you are expecting from an agency, which can be from a private sector, from a public sector, or it can be from, completely a foreign sector, or it can be from a non-governmental organization. Any institution that supports a research project is ready to support you monetarily, you/your institution, so that you can go ahead with the project. And remember, it's dealing with a lot of money. It's not just in, maybe it might be even in crores if it goes to a very in-depth research, or it might be 10 plus lakhs, right? So there's a lot of money involved. And since it's like, a very full-fledged, wholesome research project, the proposal that you submit, which will be the very first step, is very, very important. So before understanding how we go through this proposal procedure, we need to understand what are the important terms that are related with research funding as such. So as I told you, funding itself denotes financial support granted to researchers and institutions. Remember, I'll be parallelly talking about institutions because mostly projects are taken up by institutions more than the individuals. And if you take an institution, probably there'll be like 5 to 10 or 15 members working in that particular project. So for example, if Department of English wants to take up a grant from ICSSR, probably 10 people in the department will be associated, 10 staffs. So they might be in the grades of assistant professor or associate professors, or sometimes they can also hire people from outside as research staff, research assistant, or research associate. I myself was associated with the RUSA project. It's a central government project where I was working as a project fellow. I'm still a part of it. We are finishing with the project. So I know, how things work out there. And it's a big project. It's a huge project taken up by University of Madras. Madras, and in that we have different components under RUSA. So I was working associated with the journalism department of University of Madras, and where we were working to build a website for entrepreneurs of Tamil Nadu. That was the whole idea, to give them a window into accessing different schemes that was operating for these kind of vendors and people who would want to come up with startups and new innovative ideas, but they're struggling financially. So University of Madras, in collaboration with RUSA, central government, started this initiative, and they came up with the idea to come and publish a website where all these startup innovative companies can go in and access the different schemes and obtain funding. And there's a whole lot of other things, just not the funding scheme alone, but also soft skill training and things like that. So I was associated with the journalism department. So I was focusing along with my project investigator. So we have project investigator, PI, we have project fellows, PF. So there are different designations, I would say. It's a big project, so you'll have many people working under different components. So I was associated with entrepreneurial journalism, where we were talking about news media, how news can become a business where you will support people who would want to start with industries related to newspaper or publishing news. So we were taking that component, and our component will be focused on, will be projected in that website. So it was like that. So I was also associated. This is a major grant fund that Madras University got, and it started hiring people. And as I finished my PhD, my first experience was to get attached with this research wing. So I didn't start out immediately as an assistant professor. I started out as a researcher for this major research project. And following which, I took up parallelly, I started focusing on my teaching job as well. So because I'm someone who loves both research and teaching, so I was trying to balance both, and that's how it happened. Although research is my core area, but I believe the more research I do, it impacts the way I teach students. It reflects, and I believe a good teacher should also be a good researcher, because constantly you put yourself into innovative projects, you will be able to share that knowledge and expert to your students as well. So that was something I was trying to balance on. So this is so I do have a working knowledge as to how practically things happen when it comes to research projects. So now let's get back to this field. As we are discussing, I'm also just throwing light on what I was going through in my project as well. So here you see research funding. What is the main idea of giving you that monetary support? Why does research funds, really happen? To conduct studies, experiments, and investigation that push the boundary of human knowledge. See, we keep on publishing papers, we keep on exploring. So when do you have this hands-on training into, really look into real world problems, or try to come up with something which would really benefit the society as a project? For example, let me give you an example from my side. I'm a literary scholar, so I'm interested in history. So I'm also interested in things that reflect the connection between history and literature, and I'm passionate about Mughal history, and it's been like that right from my young age. So I somehow tried to marry the historical views of Mughals with literature. And now we have a lot of writings about Mughal history. There's a lot of fiction, non-fiction, everything that's coming there. Maybe if I'm passionate about history, if I'm going to take up a project which will study the history and culture of India, it's something that I would do to add value to the cultural understanding of our country, right? Although we know that there are some monuments, there are beautiful architectural pieces that exist in Mughal dynasty. But if I'm going to take up a project which says the need to revamp the knowledge or understand, reassess the knowledge that we already have of a culture, I will take an in-depth look into what are the monuments, what are the architecture. Sort of, it will taking me to the historical path, but maybe I'll go there, I'll do a lot of research, I'll incorporate a lot of theories and articles and do a lot of background research and come up with a report that would say that may come up with new findings, right? Maybe some interesting facts that even history didn't really pay attention to. So this is just one example I'm giving. Why this is important? Why do you think revisiting history is important? Because it adds value to the cultural knowledge that we already possess. So you see how, even a literature scholar can go with a research project. Same way, if you see the project that I was talking about, mostly if I say research funding or grants, the first thing people will think about is science. Of course, that's there, because only science, it's a huge area. It's where knowledge is really focused on, because it deals with coming up with medicines for harmful diseases, like saving humanity. Yes, it's a big deal, but people really don't think about arts or humanity, social sciences as something to do with research project at all. Immediately, research or project takes us to the image of a lab and scientists, right? It happens so. But these days, if you see, the other streams like social sciences and humanities and arts are picking up momentum. So, and I encourage young scholars who are there, who are participating today, to think about all this. It might seem a bit overwhelming, because in case if you're just in the brink of starting your research journey, but this is not to scare you, but this is to make you aware of the numerous opportunities that are available for you in this area. So even if you start out, like me as a literature scholar, you can end up taking a project which is worth lakhs. And when you do that, you will know, of course, you need to sharpen yourself, build your profile. There is a whole journey. It won't happen quickly. It will take time, as I've always been telling. But you have a lot of possibilities. And at the end, as a researcher, you will feel satisfied that you were associated with the project, and you can always take it into your profile and consider it as a very valuable experience or professional experience on par with your teaching experience, or it will add more value to you as a researcher. So the crucial resources enables researcher to explore new ideas. So when the research funding happens, it's mostly encouraging the researchers to carry out more investigations in their field and developing a trailblazing cutting edge technology to give them a chance to come up with something totally new. When it comes to science, if you see, it involves crores and crores, right? The research, because they'll come up with, who might know, they'll come up with some solution for fatal diseases, which has not been, imagine COVID situation. We were never prepared for that. But then there was very fast research that was happening, and finally they came up with vaccines for that also. How did that all happen? It's because of research funding. So researchers are ready to explore. Of course, sometimes we fail. There's a research, not just science. If I talk about not just medicines, drugs alone, it's also astroscience, astrophysics. We have a lot of different branches of science, as well as humanities and social sciences as well. So whatever this research funding, the whole idea of introducing the grants and funds is to support researchers and see if they can come up with something which is totally new, which can impact the society, and also in a global level can improve the visibility of our country. Imagine our researchers are coming up with such erudite scholarships, erudite researches. It's going to definitely throw light on the way our country is progressing. So, keeping all this in mind only, these government sectors and private sectors or NGOs have this whole idea of sponsoring research. So you see what kind of expectation they will be really, expecting from this researcher, right? So there is so much of money that goes in, so much of goodwill that goes in, and there's so much of pride that goes in. So you have to prove yourself to be worthy to, claim that grant from them. And really, it takes a lot of time, and it's like, even if the paper gets accepted in a very good journal, these grants are like even more tougher. There's high competition, high rates of rejection also, and the rate of acceptance is really less because of the monetary value that is involved. Also, research funding covers a wide range of expenses. So when they give you this funding, it's not just for the research alone, what you ask, but for the entire operation of the project, maybe for the people who are involved in, whom you're going to hire, the overhead cost, the equipment purchases, maintenance. For example, you are planning to carry out the research for 1 year. You will have a lot of expenses that's going in. You'll have to prepare a budget. All this is not so easy. So comes from your side also, and at the same time approving that and releasing the funds is a whole new responsibility for the funding agency. So we believe our country is constantly supporting research and coming up with a lot of grants to support researchers, believing that it will push the country towards an extensive research progress and driving advancements in various fields, and also to improve our country's research analysis as such. When compared to other countries, we will be able to shine, because obviously you see in abroad there are a lot of research is going on, but you see we in our country, especially in certain fields, we are really taking that cutting edge research, and people from abroad are looking onto us for, they are taking our help. And even I think even in COVID vaccine, we were able to come up with solutions much faster than other countries. You must be knowing all this. So you see the level of research we are in, and that's definitely possible only because of the funding that's happening, only because of all the grants that's happenings and supporting the researchers. Why is research funding important? Of course, if innovation has to happen, researchers have to be supported, and that's one important thing. It's a catalyst for innovation. You have an idea in your mind, you want to transfer the idea into practice, from ideation to making it into a practical component that will help human knowledge, that will help human race. Definitely the funding is necessary. And as I told you, global impact, right? When our country starts focusing more on research, focusing more on these kind of improvements, there's more progress, and we will be attaining a lot of popularity when it comes to with other countries. In a global level, our country will achieve a better position. And of course, economic value is attached to research funding agency. When it comes to well funded research leading to innovation, that will definitely create new industries and generate jobs, right? So for example, if I'm working on a particular project and I know it's going to be a success, and once if I prove that it's a success, probably based on that model that I've come up with, many industries can start implementing that model, and because of that, new industries can come out, more branches can be opened. Imagine, no, all this is going to benefit the human race. It's going to benefit the people, because new ideas will lead to new construction of new companies, new organizations, which will again lead to construction of new job opportunities. So everywhere you see, it's focusing on welfare, it's focusing on progress. Yeah, the COVID vaccine example that I've already given. So here there is this statistics that I would want to point you all to. So between 2014 and 18, worldwide spending on research alone started growing. The amount that you spend on research started growing. Our country started focusing more on that. So this is one particular thing that we need to focus on. We need to understand that our country is very much interested to sponsor, to support young researchers, but how to make ourselves worthy to get that whole research is the training, or the more refining that we should have as a researcher, and whatever we have to go through and improve ourselves in our research and academic skills is something that we should do from our side to make ourselves avail all these opportunities. And also in the second part, I have put that this trend highlights the increasingly competitive nature of securing fund. A lot of competition, right? If there's one research project that comes up or the grant is given, all the researchers are going to compete for that, because everyone wants their idea to turn into something practical. Their idea wants to be launched into a project. No one wants to carry the idea for a long time. They would love to see it launch it into a practical project. So you have a lot of competition. Imagine it's like 1,000 times into how you will compete for getting your paper published in a good journal. A Scopus listed journal, which is very good, which has good impact factor, they usually don't charge, right? But there are journals which charge a lot. People pay in thousands more than that. But a good journal, like we have Taylor and Francis journal I was talking about. So there's no application processing charges, APC charges that they call. But then you need to wait for a long time. Apart from waiting, getting accepted itself is one big thing, right? Sometimes it comes back with major revisions that I was pointing out yesterday. Same way when it comes to grants, it's 1,000 times more difficult than this, because you have so many people with strong proposals competing to get that project grant. So the competition is definitely increasing because the pool of researcher is expanding faster in the global population. So the whole pressure lies in the way the researcher is going to present a strategic and compelling research proposal. So whenever a project opens up for research funding, an institution opens up for research funding, the first thing that they will call out for, like how we call out for papers from journal side, we will see there's a call out for research proposal. So you need to focus on the art of writing the proposal, and more than that, you need to do a lot of background research like you will do for your research paper as well. So understanding who are the people who are the key stakeholders in research funding. First, funders, right? Whether it's government agencies. So here in United States, you have a lot of agencies, not just in our country, because even in our own country, people from researchers from our country are trying to obtain funds from other foreign countries and foreign research agencies according to how their research aligns with their policy. So government agencies are there. We have private corporations, companies that are ready to sponsor the research, thinking that if that research becomes successful, they can take ownership of that research and gain a good name, and they can become someone who's very competitive in their field. And of course, academic institutions, universities and research institutes are there. They also conduct research and also provide funding through internal grants, scholarships and fellowships. So as I tell you, like once you're done with your PhD, for scholars who are done with their PhD, who take up their doctorate, who are done with their doctorate, there are a lot of opportunities to do postdoctoral fellowship. In India, if you see, we have Fulbright fellowships. If you can Google it up and see, they have their own website. So we have partnered with USIEF, US Embassy, which will help us to send scholars from our own country to United States, where they can associate themselves with different research departments there. And this is very much available for scholars from social sciences. It's very difficult to find research for social sciences, because I've been searching, and that's my own personal experience I'm reflecting here. Because if we are from science, there's quite a lot opportunities are available. Of course, competition is there, heavy competition is there, that is not to be neglected. But for social science, it's all the more a struggle. Nowadays, it's coming, it's gaining traction. But then, as I told you, our country is also fostering opportunities where you can start collaborating with foreign universities. So for scholars who are interested to visit USA, you have this Fulbright doctoral scholarship, you have Fulbright postdoctoral scholarships, fellowships, and a lot of grants that's given there. So you can check out their websites to see. Every year they start opening applications. You can go through that and keep an eye on that if you have any idea to pursue your research in abroad. And academic institutions, this is what I was telling when I was associated with University of Madras. So you see a central government body like RUSA. So RUSA tries to partner with Madras University, which is quite of a popular university in Tamil Nadu, so that it believes that this university will be able to take up the project by taking the required personnel and buying the equipments and taking care of all the project I was doing is somewhat related to human resource management. So this project was taken by MBA department, management department. So this is how a government institution will tie up with a popular university or a popular college, and then will carry out the project, so that this university will take care of all. Maybe there'll be a group head, right, who will take care of the project. And under the group head, we will have investigators, principal investigators. Under the principal investigators, we will have project fellows. So you see the whole hierarchy is also working there. And then everything comes to a culmination after a year or so. Once the project is over, periodically funds will be released based on the budget that is given. And then once they get closer to achieving their goals, they give a report. It's like a project report, right, like a thesis. And also for every project, you will have a PDF, a postdoctoral fellow will be heading the entire project. Sometimes these designations will change. It depends on how depends on how the project keeps changing. For example, in RUSA project, we were having a postdoctoral fellow, we were having a principal investigator, we were having a group lead and a project fellow. So almost 4 designations. But this is not how it works out for all the research grants, for all the research projects. Depending on the quality and the characteristics of the project, the designation changes, the requirement changes. But this is the basic, I would want to say. Like how we were talking about certain standard components when it comes to research paper, these are the basic elements. And you need to understand what are the types of research funding. So funding, if they say they're going to fund your research, there are many types. Seed funding. So seed funding is something which is very much smaller in nature when compared to major research grant. For example, in colleges, seed funding can be given to professors for publishing their papers. They might give like what, because usually when you publish in a Scopus or a Web of Science Index journal, the money you need will be kind of high, right? So sometimes it'll be 40,000, 50,000. So if you want to publish with 3 or 4 people or of your colleagues, you will need some money, right? So probably if you're really good in research, you show that credentials, you have this potential, your college or your university will give that seed fund to you to encourage you to publish your research paper. Because at the end, you're going to say that you are belonging to this particular institution, right? The institution's name also gets recognized in a popular journal. So you see how it all operates. So seed funding can also be taken up for a smaller scale project. So maybe like 6 to 12 months or for a year. And it's kind of not a very major grant that you can expect from seed funding. So that is one method of funding. Second is project funding. Project funding is the example that I gave you, that I was working in RUSA. So you take a completely you get yourself involved in a project which might go for 1+2 or +2+ years, and it takes a long time. It requires a lot of human resource, equipments. It's kind of huge. Even under project funding, you have major funding, minor funding, right? If it's a small project, you can expect it to get it complete by a year or so. But if it's going to be a major project, you can expect it to go more than 1 year, depending on the progress that you show. And also remember, seed funding can be given to individuals, but when it comes to project funding, it's definitely a team. It's not an individual. So you have team of people working. So for example, in this RUSA project that I was talking about, you have a team of researchers working, right? So almost we were like 10 to 15 of us. Under each component, we had 10 to 15. So totally for the overall project, I think close to 50 plus. It was a really major project we are taking up, right? So each one in different component. So there is a lot of idea that you should be forming before you enter into this whole world of accessing research grants and funds. And then comes the center funding. So these funds are generally large. You have this major grant, and this may constitute many broader programs. So, for example, the long term benefits of the program are assessed over a period of 3 to 6 years. It's like really huge, right? So, probably they can start off with a minimum period of 3, it can go up to a maximum period of 6 years, and it can also keep extending because you are trying to do something which is really a big, and we wait for the results, we wait for accomplishing it, and sometimes it takes time to show the progress as well. So, that is what center funding is. It's more majorly connected with the huge sum of grant that needs to be received from the funding agency. So who is at the heart of research funding and grant? Definitely the researchers. They are the driving force. So the set of researchers who work in that project, who work in that research are really the core people who have to be focused on. And they have a role, right? So even before you start with your research proposal, what does a researcher do? Has to identify the funding opportunity. I think that's the most tedious work, right? Even right now, even if I have to think about, I'm not yet done with my project. Once I'm done, even I'm planning to take up another project. I'm started to look, forward to many opportunities. I know how laborious task it is because so many things keep coming up. I should see which aligns to my interest. I should, do some networking, think of collaboration. All these homework I have to keep doing every day because I would love to continuously engage myself in research projects. So once I'm done with this project that I'm in, I'll be going with the next one. I'll be looking and I have to start the background work. I've started a bit and I need to dwell myself deeper into it. Why I'm sharing this is it's like, it takes really long time. Sometimes you might not even find a proper research project opening even for a year or so. And, you should be prepared and you should keep searching whenever the opportunities open up where it is really, going to land you in. Preparing grant proposals is very important. That's what is like an invitation letter. That's like an ad for your research. And that's how you pitch in your research ideas to the funding agency. And once you get it, you should start managing the funds properly. You'll be accountable for every rupee that you spend out of the money that you receive. So, for example, they're going to grant you 10 lakhs for this project. You are becoming a part of the project. You are the project head. You should account to the person in the sense, I mean, the agency, I mean, the sector which has given you that fund. So every rupee or every penny that you spend, you will be asked, you are accountable for that. So managing the budget accounts and all is something very huge. You need to have human resources. You need to hire people to take care of that and build relationship with potential funders and peers. You should do a lot of networking and collaboration to get things done. And when you are engaging in interdisciplinary collaborations, it's something that research agencies would really love to. The research funding agencies really prefer interdisciplinary collaboration because it has a broader impact. See, remember, as I'm, keep on reminding you, research is no longer, sometimes we say it's particular to one field. Yes, we start with one field. And sometimes as we keep going deeper, we see that there are many fields that get interconnected with the research. As I tell you, I started with literature, but as I went through literature, I could see how it can connect with psychology, how it can connect with history. I felt it was like a revelation for me because no longer literature is just focused only on just the authors alone. It takes to a lot of concepts. We have vulnerability studies, disability studies, we have medical humanities. You see, medical humanities, the term itself is blending science and humanities. Though we might see both of them are polarities, right? Science is at one end and humanities is the other end. But when I say medical humanities, which is gaining momentum right now, so you can see how the blending happens. The blending is nothing but taking us to an interdisciplinary mode. So the more you are interdisciplinary in nature in your research, even in getting published your papers, you have higher chances. Because that is something we are trying to connect the dots. Everywhere research is happening. But how are you just connecting it after you? Of course, first you need to be a pro in your field, you need to be an expert in your field. Then only can you think about interdisciplinary, collaborations. Because once you are strong in your field, you have a thorough understanding in your field of research, you can look into the possibilities of how you can combine it with other fields. So this is something that I want to point out. So what are the benefit of research outcome? Definitely the social impact. So public health, if it's going to be any breakthrough research that's happening in medical field, public health policies, disease prevention, you can think about the COVID vaccine that India was rigorously working on. You know how impact, the kind of impact it made, no? So probably we were able to save so many lives because of the timely development of the vaccine. So that is one thing, one small example. But there are many other examples when it comes to public health policies, coming up with new drugs, and also taking step towards economic growth, right? Creating new industries, jobs, and technology. All this is indirectly benefiting the society. So this is something which drives ahead the research. And many issues in the society. For example, we have climate fellowship. These days, I'm finding it everywhere. It's kind of a popular term, right? A lot of invitations come for climate fellowship, which I'm not really into, but I do have some knowledge because I feel that it's gaining popularity these days. So because we have climate crisis happening, even in literature, we have cli-fi fictions, climate fictions. So everywhere, that's this whole thing coming up, right? So keep yourself updated. Just have a sharp eye as to what is going in the world of research. What are the prominent topics that's floating in the world of research? I would encourage you to just look into that and see, and be aware of all these topics. Although you might be belonging to one particular stream, you can go ahead and check what is available, so that you will also have an idea as to what are the current trends happening in research. So definitely it's something that is driving towards a better social impact, and hence the popularity of research funding is something that will keep attracting the researchers over the years to come. So when it comes to the research funding ecosystem, it follows a whole process, right? Competitive application, when the application window opens, so much of applications comes in, and not possible to check everyone, take everyone inside. So there is a rigorous scrutiny that will happen, similar to how it happens in your research paper publication, definitely more stricter than that. Peer reviews do happen. So once the application comes in, there might be multiple levels of scrutiny that will happen, and a lot of peer review. There'll be a peer review team which will be going through your proposals and test the viability and see whether you can really keep proceeding to the next round, whether it is worth sponsoring your project. And for this, detailed project proposals are very much important, which will make an impact. So we will be going through the structure of the project proposal in the subsequent slides. And also sometimes we have intermediaries who play an important role. That's the thing I spoke to you about, my own example of how a university acts as an intermediary, right? It takes up the project from the government and it carries it forward based on the on behalf of the government, and it's definitely answerable to the government. Anytime government questions it, it should be able to show, with their data, their budget, what is happening when they are closing the project, what is the progress that is being made. So data has to be maintained properly for all this. And intermediaries, when instead of government coming and reaching out to people directly, it takes up academic institutions and research agencies as a middleman to carry forward the research, so that it will not get into all the task of hiring people, checking out the day-to-day working related to the project. So all this will be taken up by the intermediaries. Intermediaries provide the necessary administrative support and ensure that the project happens along complying along with the funding guidelines, and also offer resources for the researchers to navigate this funding landscape. And also we have many grant writing workshops and things like that which keep happening, which helps us to understand
Hello.
how we can align.
Hi.
Can you hear me? Is there any issue?
Is
Can I
it Hima?
continue? I'm
Yes,
hearing
Awas,
some.
everything is in focus.
Okay, I'm
Hima?
hearing some noise. Okay. So let's go to impact of research funding. So research funding focuses on research output, right? The whole idea of, imagine I am a research funding institute. I am having money and I want to fund your research. My aim is to always look into the outcome. It should be outcome based. I would want to know, why should I spend that 10 lakhs or 20 lakhs on your research? Imagine I'm the company out there and you are a researcher. I'm having the money. If I'm going to spend it on you, my whole aim is to look at what will be the outcome. What will it lead to? So well-funded projects can definitely lead to comprehensive studies, and it requires a lot of support. And as a funder, I will be ready to give you that support, believing, hoping that you would be able to show me the results. And it also leads to innovation, economic growth. We have seen that in detail. And I've also told you about the government funding, why government takes up the funding process. For example, this rules I was talking about is the government funding. If you see, the idea of creating the project is to help these entrepreneurs in Tamil Nadu so that they don't struggle for taking help from people. They can take legal help, they can go through all the schemes, they can train themselves, and they can put their business into, functioning with the help of schemes available. They have consultants in the website who will be contacting them if they reach out. So if you see, it is developed with a motive to help these small scale business people right there who want to come up with these innovative startups. So see, government is trying to help these people so that we will have many innovative startups springing up. So in order to do that, the government has taken the help of this university, which will be handling the website. And of course, it's accountable to the project. It's accountable to the central government. So government usually gives the grants because it's believing that it will not only advance knowledge, but will also address societal challenges and supporting research that will have a better impact for the society. Of course, if you see, to be frank, there's definitely a struggle for funds because government has a lot of constraint when it comes to spending money in for certain things or certain allocations. Sometimes we feel the funds are released a little bit late because they also struggle a lot. There are many things that they have to allocate funds for. There might be budget constraints and only limited funds that might be allocated for one part of the project. So these are all definitely the cons. You have pros, you have cons. So that is definitely there. But government funding mostly focuses on welfare of the people. So the outcome, at the end would be welfare of the people and advancing knowledge in a particular field. And also philanthropic organizations, they play a crucial role in research funding ecosystem. So for example, there might be, they often, can I answer the questions? If there's any questions, can you just hold and put it to the towards the end? I saw someone raising their hands. So philanthropic organizations also play a crucial role in research funding ecosystem. They often support areas that might be overlooked by government or corporate funders. For example, there is this American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. So it offers various grants focusing on suicide prevention research, right? So this is something, yeah, this is also a social issue which, the government will be careful to address. But then these are things that, NGOs can actually take up, or private philanthropic institutions can take up, so that it will be their corporate social responsibility for them to carry forward this. So grant application, how does it really work out? The idea is, you have an idea in mind. You need to conduct a lot of literature review. Again, it's like similar to a research paper. And then this all will go into your proposal development. Once the proposal is developed, you will submit your proposal through the appropriate funding service. Sometimes directly you can submit the proposal to the institution. Otherwise, there will be intermediaries, right? So, for example, you will have an institute or a university that will stand as an intermediate that will help you to take forward the proposal. So, you will submit it to them directly, or there'll be research institutions which will be involving themselves in that. And once it's submitted, there'll be review and evaluation that happens. The proposals are assessed based on, certain criteria like its impact, feasibility, and alignment. And finally, the award is given. The scholarship or the fellowship or the grant or the award money is given, and then you can start carrying out your project. So what are the key things, steps and challenges or things that you have to have in mind when you are going ahead with this? Definitely when a call for proposals for grants, research funds come out, check the eligibility requirements. That's very, very important. Whether you are eligible, whether your project is eligible to acquire that fund. Otherwise, it will be a waste of time to go ahead and, apply and go through all that huge process. So check that requirements and familiarize yourself with the funding agency rules, because they will have their own set of rules and regulation, especially when it comes for budgeting, because it deals with money. Remember, since money is involved, there's a lot of, guidelines that will come in, and you are expected to comply with that guidelines. Obtain necessary ethical approvals. So for example, any software that you have to use, or you have to use people as participants in your research, all these ethical challenges, ethical considerations have to be given importance to. And also, what are the challenges? As I already told you, there is high competition. Competition is very fierce when it comes to obtaining research grant, and so you make sure your proposal stands out, and it should closely align with the policies of the funding agency or the institution, and it should demonstrate a significant impact on the society, or your aim and objective should come out properly. And the application process also, sometimes it will be very complex, because if you see, it's like right from once the proposal itself comes out, the format, you have a lot of format. Each agency comes out with many formats for proposals, and to get the components for each components of the proposal, you need to really work around it. So of course, you can use AI, you can use help from experts who have already applied to that particular project, who have got the grant already. So you need to connect with them for their support. And also time management, because you need to start early and use relevant tools to streamline your application process. For this, we have a lot of training programs, we have workshops which will help you to develop your skill, because I would say it's a skill, right, for a researcher who wants to take the research to the next level. Probably after doing their PhD, or even before doing their PhD, they still have this idea that's in their mind. If they want to advance it further, it becomes a skill. Research writing, proposal writing for attaining a grant becomes a skill, and you need to pay attention to that. Developing a strong research proposal is at the heart of receiving the grant. It improves the chances of receiving the grant. So the essential components would be, you should define your objectives clearly. So don't have any ambiguity in that. No, you shouldn't be vague. It should definitely come out with proper aims and objectives, like your research paper. And the methodology should be robust, in the sense you give a detailed description of the research designs and methods that you would be using, whether it's quantitative or qualitative. How do you go about conducting this research? What is the data that you need? And what is your idea to collect the data? Everything has to be listed. Everything has to be stated clearly. And what is the expected outcome? So you have to anticipate the outcomes that is going to be for your project, and the importance. Okay, it's like as though you have completed the project, you must have that kind of clarity even at your proposal stage. Of course, saying this will be a very tall claim. How will you know without even going deeper into the project? You can't really say what might happen. There are uncertainties, but that's fine. But the clarity that you exhibit in your research proposal should be in such a way that people, when they see your proposal, the funders, they should be impressed, and they should know that you are confident in what you are actually proposing. It's like you have done with the project and then giving the proposal. In your mind, in your head, the visualization has to happen. It's like done in your mind, and then only you start pouring in all the details, and that's when you can show your passion for the research that you are really pointing out to. And the budget is another important thing, because as I told you, we are dealing with money. Monetary focus is very important. So putting the budget for different expenses, that's the whole thing. You can always take help from experts and mentors who can give you an idea as to how you can split your money. What do you really want for the project? You need to be very transparent and honest in quoting this money, because you can't really take anything that's extra. You should be show yourself as someone who's honest and would be accountable to every penny that you take from the funder. And highlight your research team expertise and collaboration. Of course, when you are pitching in for the particular research grant, it's not you, it's your whole team, right? So when you are submitting the team of people who will be into this research, ensure that you highlight their expertise. It's not that you take random people who are in different fields. When you know this one particular field that you're focusing, you are going to select people who will be experts, who have a good academic record, whose profile is really good. And once the funders will go through that, they will see how the team is strong or not. If you don't give a proper team from your side, then you are not really building in the trust from your side to take the proposal ahead. And also align your proposal with the funding agency's goals. So go through the website of the funding agency, see what they're actually expecting, go through the guidelines, check out their priorities and the goals that they have, right? Because they will have certain mission statement, right? Because they are someone who's focusing on carrying forward your research ahead. So think about that and see whether your research proposal aligns with all those goals, and be very clear and concise in writing, And I think you will be developing this because by the time you are reaching the stage, you have become a full-fledged researcher, right? That's only is driving you forward to take up a research project. So ensure this is done, and make sure you use all your research writing skills here, your research paper writing skills that comes to play, and that serves in good stead when you talk about research proposal writing. And emphasize the potential impact always, even in your research paper. Keep emphasizing this. Ensure that you highlight the significance of your research paper, right? The uniqueness and the impact it is going to make. Same way, even in your proposal, make sure you highlight these components. And some common things that you can avoid doing: vague or unclear objectives and methodologies. Okay, if you are not clear about something, if it's not clear in your head, don't put it in paper. That's my suggestion. When you are confused about an idea or methodology, or you just want to give it a try and put it, don't do that, because it will stand out and you will lose the trust. Insufficient budget justification. Again, money is at the heart of this project, any research project which will be sponsoring your work. So make sure you give a clarity as to how you're going to spend the monetary resources. And poor writing quality will definitely not serve well, because that knows if a researcher is not even able to write the proposal properly, then it's the chances are very, very less, or there are no chances of the proposal being successful. So building your research profile. So you need to submit your own profile along with your proposal, right? That is also asked. So when you are, for example, if I'm going to apply for a postdoctoral fellowship, which is in a way a research project, right? I'm furthering my research into that. So they'll ask me to submit a proposal. They'll ask me to submit a CV. They'll ask me to submit a statement of purpose, my earlier records, everything they'll ask, because they want to see whether I'm someone who has this scholarly nature, who will be able to carry forward this research. How will they know this? When they see my CV, it's my academic profile, it's my paper publication, or it's the conferences that I have presented my papers in, or invited talks or lectures that I go, or it's a test to my knowledge. Mostly it's your academic publication that will tell them that you are an expert in this field. So that's where I tell you, like, once you cross that field of a researcher is by when you come to this stage, you must have had significant number of papers published, because your CV is also going to be critically scrutinized. Your CV is also going to be assessed. And what they'll be looking in your CV will definitely be your publication records. So focus on building a robust publication record to demonstrate your expertise and credibility. So if you are going to apply for a research project that is related to one field of research, ensure that your publication is related to that. Probably you should be having 10 plus publication related to that particular field. So that will only show that, funder, that yes, you have enough knowledge, you have enough background knowledge to carry forward this. So if your field is completely different, for example, you have published papers in another field, but you have applied to a research which is not at all related to your publication record, it will be completely chaos there, because the funding agency can't see a connection between why you have applied for this research and you as a researcher, your publications being in a different direction. So make sure that you tie up all this, because everything will be connected. Your proposal will be evaluated alongside your curriculum vitae. And citation impact, obviously, make sure you target your paper publication for a high citation impactful journal like Scopus or Web of Science Index, so that they will know that you have not just published in any random journal. It's internationally acclaimed, or it is indexed journals which has high citation impact. So that's why you should be very careful in the journals that you select. And networking, of course, networking and collaboration is a skill. It's a life skill for any researcher, because you will have to get to know people in your research. In case if you're moving on with your grant and proposal, make sure you connect with people. And LinkedIn is a beautiful platform for that, for collaborating and networking. You will see people posting a lot of ideas, announcements. You will find people who are in your own field. You can connect with them, ask them help, and it will take you to different communities related to your research area. So find ways to network, find ways to collaborate, and continuously keep yourself updated in your area of research. And of course, develop a unique niche that is definitely there. Even as a researcher who's trying to publish research paper, you should be having your niche area. So that area is where you will constantly keep focusing on, and your publications will focus on. So for example, my area is life writing, my research area. So my paper, life writing and autoethnography. So my paper publications, if you can see my CV, it will all be related to women's life writing, autoethnography. I ensure that I use these words throughout my paper publication. Of course, I will use different texts, different authors, but I'll ensure that these are my key areas. So I'll only be focusing more on that. So in future, if I'm going to apply for a postdoctoral fellowship in life writing or a postdoctoral fellowship in Indian women's writing, I will be able to show my publication track record will be shown to see how much I focused on all these topics earlier. And this is what will prove me as someone who is eligible for that particular funding proposal. So definitely a winning research proposal has a compelling storytelling narrative. This is very important because, when you read the proposal, it should be like, you're going to tell your story of research, which is very much important. And the narrative that you are structuring, you're crafting, is a very important tool in your proposal. And it should captivate the funders. They should be pleased with the narrative that you are writing, and they should be convinced that you will be able to take forward the research. Components of research. So when you're articulating the significance of your research, again, don't forget to focus on the critical gaps. Remember the research gaps that we were talking about in depth yesterday. So if you are researching, for example, about a new treatment in science, they do this, right? They're always finding out medicines, drugs for diseases. So you will highlight how your work could potentially improve the lives of patients with limited options. So again, keep highlighting the significance and keep highlighting the research gap and why your research is important. And emphasize the concept of innovation, because research is connected with innovation. And that's very important. And make the innovation aspects very clear. And also make sure that you always point out to what will be the outcome that your research is going to come on, and tailor your research language and your research content accordingly. And make sure you also have an interdisciplinary element in that, so that this will foster cross field collaboration. And more interdisciplinary it is, chances of getting it accepted are higher. And for example, when it comes to budgeting and resource planning, as I again keep pointing out, budgeting is very important because it's directly connected with the monetary component, which is a significant part of any research proposal related to funding. So it demonstrates your ability to manage resource. You're not only a good researcher, but you should also be good in managing your resources, because you're going to get some money, huge amount of money. If you don't know how to manage that money, if you don't know how to budget it properly, then you won't be able to carry forward the research properly. And that's where your budgeting skills or your resource managing skills comes into place, right? So create a realistic and detailed budget that accounts for all the costs related to the personnel that you are hiring, their salaries, benefits, all the equipments, overhead costs, travel expenses. So visualize all this in your head. That's why I told you, have a bigger picture in your head as to what and all you require for this project, and be meticulous about reflecting about the amount that will really go inside all this. You need to be transparent about that. If you find a particular category needs more money, mostly if you see most cost is actually spent for recruiting the research personnel. So for example, if it's a big project, you will have a research assistant, you will have a research associate, and you will have field investigators. Mostly these are the three people. You will have principal investigators, you will have fellows, and you'll also have field investigators. So depending on their ranking, depending on the hierarchy of the designation that I'm talking about, you will have to pay salary for all these people. So you mentioned that also. What is the salary that you'll be paying for all these people who will be working with you in this research? So apart from research skills, you should be able to communicate to them how you're going to manage your financial resources. And a very detailed planning is needed. It's not a single man's work, single man show, I would say. A lot of heads have to be put together to work on a detailed budget planning. And each expenses that you are doing, you need to justify it. Why are you even spending money on that? So you should understand that you are taking this person for this research, what kind of work this person will do for you, why this work is needed. You think, is this position even needed? So for example, if I'm going to hire a field investigator, that means I have to justify, yes, I need this field person who will get down on the field to collect data, who will be conducting my surveys, who will be conducting, taking forward the questionnaire, who will be gathering data. So how many field investigators you want? Where do you want them to get posted? So along with that, there's traveling, there's other, ancillary expenses that will come along with all this. So you should be able to justify each of it, explaining the contribution it makes to the project success. Simply, you can't say, I'm going to just hire 4 people for this particular component and then give the cost. I need this much money. I need like 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs I need for this recruitment process alone. Just saying that I'm just going to take these 4 people. Each one you need to justify why that particular person is needed. So this is very important, and you should show in such a way that you are concerned about saving the cost. You need to cut the cost, and that's more important. Just because the money is being sponsored by a funding agency, you can't allocate it in a lavish manner. So you have to highlight the cost saving measure or efficiency. This will only make the funder understand that you are concerned about the money that you are spending. It's not out of your pocket you're doing. It's someone who's sponsoring, but still you should prove that you are, a cost efficient person who's always ready to cut cost and maximize the efficiency. So this is one thing that you have to be very honest about, and this will really take you to a successful launching of the proposal. And also the ethical considerations that I've already told you. So if you are, not following any guidelines pertaining to the funders agency, you should mention that or clearly communicate if there is any conflict of interest that comes between you and the funder, between you and the person who's sponsoring. Communicate it clearly so that there shouldn't be anything that's hidden or anything that's put under the carpet. That's what I'm trying to say. Be more transparent and address the issues carefully. If there's any conflict or if there's any clash of ideas or ideologies that comes between you and the funder, anything that happens, ensure you communicate it properly. So as I was telling you, if your research involves human subjects, explain how you will ensure consent. You will take the consent from the participants and the need to protect their privacy, participant privacy. This also happens in the research paper that I was talking about yesterday, right? So if you have participants who are participating, they don't want their names to be revealed, you should take certain ethical considerations in mind when you are considering. You can't just say, okay, how will they know I'll start using it? No, it might create a problem sometime later. So be very careful when you are addressing these considerations. Tailoring your proposals and leveraging support. And remember one thing, one size of one proposal, that of course you have a research idea in mind. You can always go about preparing a proposal in a general format, which I'll be talking about in my subsequent slides. But remember, it keeps changing. There might be slight changes, slight alterations that you might have to do when it comes to a different funding agency. But once you have a strong proposal prepared in a general standardized format, you can start making the little changes as and when you pitch the proposal to the agencies. So customize your proposal for specific funding body or the grant type also. So you have a general proposal in hand, keep that ready. You have all the common components that's needed. But when you are sending it to a particular funding agency, as I always told you, go through the requirements, go through their policies, go through the requirement of the proposal. Sometimes they will give you a template to follow when you are going through that proposal. So ensure that you go through it and then, do some alterations and submit it accordingly. So this will help you to get the chances will be maximized for you to get it supported. Use the funders language and address the specific priorities. Emphasize collaborative research and highlights any partnership or interdisciplinary aspects. In case you're planning to collaborate with another organization, you have any ideas to make such networking collaborations for the project purpose of the project, communicate that also. So the more you communicate clearly, it shows you are interested and you are honest with whatever actions that you're going to take related to the research. See, sometimes it happens, all this embezzling of funds or using it, not properly appropriating the funds. All these kind of things happen, and it might even take to serious legal issues, right? Because simply taking 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs from funding agency, but not accounting to them and not showing the cost, expenses, everything correctly, not using the budget properly, all these things will create a lot of confusion. And that's very important since monetary values are involved. We need to be honest as a researcher in communicating everything. So of course there are a lot of professional grant writing services available, grant writing workshops, which you can actually participate and understand as to how you can formulate the grant, because it's not very easy, and sometimes people have to wait for years to get their grants to be great, get their projects to be successfully get the financial grant. So sometimes they wait for a year or more, they keep sending the proposals continuously, but they don't receive the grant, they don't receive any answers from the other side. So you should know where the proposal is lacking, what are the components that need a lot of attention. So seek peer review and feedback. Even for your research, I keep telling that once you have a good networking and collaboration system, you will have a lot of mentors in your field who will be ready to kind of help you, will be giving you suggestions, or who might be referring you to other people in the field, right? So once you're done with the proposal, instead of immediately sending it across, try to show it to your mentors or any faculty members or experts for a peer review. Probably you can show to like 3, 4 people to read through the proposal, and understand whether this is going to be really successful, any errors, because when people read, they can come up with some weakness or some areas of improvement that you can actually focus on. So think about sharing it. Even your research paper, I would tell that, right? Obviously, PhD scholars, before they share their research papers, before they publish it, they share it with their mentors. They take a word from them, because the better you circulate it and you understand the pros and cons, or what and all are the areas that you can really improve on, you can really work on it and have a satisfaction that you've done whatever you could do. You even did a self editing that we were talking about yesterday. Apart from that, you're sending out to other people also who can give their own thoughts on it. And you can see if you can make relevant changes accordingly. Network and building collaboration is definitely important. You attend a lot of conferences, keep yourself engaged, get into LinkedIn and see who are the people who are experts in your field. If you're not done that, I would encourage you to do it, because that puts you in connection with a lot of them who are doing, you might be doing very great in your field. You might not know that, and will be willing to help you out, or will be willing to refer you to people who can actually guide you through, walk you through this process. So please go ahead and do that. You have a lot of information coming out there. Maybe all conferences related to your research paper will come out, not just only in WhatsApp groups, which are kind of popular today. You can also check out in LinkedIn, create a profile for yourself and reach out to people there in case if you are interested in a particular area of research, and you will get connected slowly to those people who can help you to further in this research journey. And yeah, networking, identifying, I've already spoke about that in detail, which is very much important. It's one of a research skill, I would say, skill for a researcher, collaborating and networking. And by the time you come to this process of seeking grants, for your research project, you should be strong in identifying your research field and scope. For example, even in your PhD level, you might have focused on multiple research areas, but I would keep suggesting this: find your niche area where you will be strong enough to say that yes, I am a researcher in this particular field. And also find the scope of your field. Once you get these things in place, you can start looking out for funding sources which will help you to carry forward your research. That's very important. Identify your research field, which includes personal interest, your academic. It should align with your academic background, and constantly keep checking on that. Okay, so your scope of your research should focus on your objectives and whether the research is feasible to be carried forward. For this, you need to do a lot of background work. And background work, I mean conducting literature reviews. Apart from literature reviews, engaging with experts, that comes out of networking and collaborating. And this all will improve your understanding. Very in bottom line, you need to keep growing every day. You need to keep developing every day. It's not that you can publish a paper every day, which is not possible, but at least getting connected with people, taking one little step to make yourself an expert in your research field is what I'm asking you all to do. And that little step might be just reaching out to people who are expert in your field, maybe reading an article related to your field, attending a workshop related to your field. All this is a little step that you're going to take. And that's very important. This is how you grow day by day, right, in your research. And identify the potential sources. First, get to know who are the people who will be ready to fund your project. So whether you're looking for funding within the country, you have certain government institutions, government bodies that fund research for culture, for history, for social sciences. I was telling about ICSSR, that's quite popular. You can check out their website also. So they will have periodically, the calls will keep opening for major and minor research grants. Even professors, assistant professors, academicians can check out that and see if there's any call that comes out related to your area of research interest. And ensure that you develop a clear and compelling research question. Research question / research problem is something that we are discussing in detail from yesterday. So this is something, the skill of developing a research question or research problem, you must have, mastered the skill by the time you reach this stage. And that would have come to you automatically, because definitely you have published significant number of papers by the time you come to claim your research project, saying that yes, I'm a researcher, I want to conduct a research, I need money. So by this time you have mastered this art, you have mastered the nuances of writing a good research, coming up with a good research question. So check out on all these details before you go for submitting your proposal. So the core of your proposal is a research question. It will only help you to guide with what are the research design methods and outcomes that you can focus on. Your research question should be clear. There should be no confusion. Focus on what you are really, achieving, planning to achieve. What are the gaps, and how is your research going to be a cutting edge one? And justify why your research is important and what is the benefit it's going to give, the significance. So bring in a set of questions, and if you're able to answer the questions, and it's you are able to answer the question in a compelling way, it's definitely going to be appealing to the funding agencies. And definitely a strong research team is very important. So if you are submitting a panel of research members who be working with you in the project, they should be good in that particular area. They should be an expert. That's also very important. Because their CVs will also be scrutinized along with yours. Imagine you are the project head who's proposing, you are the principal investigator, chief principal investigator. You are submitting the CVs for other project fellows. No, they'll also be going through the curriculum details of those particular individuals, because the funding agency wants to know whether every person working in the project is equally competent. So ensure that you choose your people wisely, which is again very important. And the proposal has to give an opportunity to convince your funders, and this happens only with a lot of background working that happens. And also consider your proposal itself like a thesis, approach it like a research paper. Although it's just a proposal, these days I think even for PhD research, proposals are being asked. I've helped scholars to develop proposals for PhD research. It's not that once you find a guide or a supervisor, you can go and talk to them and immediately. Sometimes it happens informally, but formally, if you see, they are expected to give a proposal. So I've helped students to draft a proposal for their PhD. And sometimes, you give a proposal and you will be assigned to different supervisors. Each university, each institution operates in different ways when it comes to taking PhD scholars. So that is quite different. But proposal is what shows you that you are really into this. You are a game for it. You are really into this whole research process. It is equally important even for a PhD journey. So now seek feedback and revise your proposal. That I've already told you. Don't be in a hurry to just send it across. You have a networking group of people who will be ready to help you. Take suggestions. You can go to language experts who will help you to check for grammar errors or errors in structuring or organizing your data. So give it a lot of reading, do a lot of editing, and show it to people who can give you a lot of constructive feedback on this. And you need to remember that academic research is something very exciting and interesting, and also it involves a lot of money when you have to really carry out a project, right? You have an idea, but imagine if you're going to put it into a practical application, you need money. If you need money, you need people to sponsor you. If people have to sponsor your project, they need to trust you a lot. And the trust comes only in the way you put yourself, your heart and mind into the proposal, and your academic background and profile. And above all, academic research is highly competitive, and there's a lot of review and scrutiny that's happening. So getting selected and going through this process is definitely a big journey, and you should be prepared for it mentally. So grant application tips is something that I've given you throughout the whole process that I've been explaining, how to check the eligibility and planning your application carefully. Sometimes you'll be asked recommendation letters. Most of the time this is asked when you apply for postdoctoral fellowship, which is also like a research fellowship that you will do after your PhD. You'll be asked letters of recommendation. So what are the letters of recommendation? You probably your supervisor or people who know you very well in this field. This is why you need networking and collaboration. They'll be giving a letter saying that this particular candidate is someone who's really good in her field. She's published a lot of papers and I know her. She is worthy to receive this fellowship. So I recommend her. I highly recommend her for this particular fellowship. So you get letters of recommendation from people who are in a very high designation, probably as an associate professor or a head or head of an institution. So people like these should be able to vouch for your academic credibility. And this will happen, of course, the institutions that you have studied will definitely support you or back you up, because they'll be happy to see you exploring with a research project. It's definitely a moment of pride for them. But other than that, the experts who can help you in this, or they know that you are really working hard towards it, will also be able to support you with a letter of recommendation. Also, when you are aiming a grant proposal, also have your target audience in mind and who will be reading your proposal. It's not just one person, there's a whole team that's operating there. So there'll be peer reviewers, there'll be editors, there will be policy makers who are highly expertised in that particular field. So they will have a lot of thoughts that's going to, go into scrutinizing this, reviewing your proposal. So keep all these audience in mind when you're writing your proposal. So now I think these are all the things that I've already explained. We can move on to the make your project goals realistic and clear. So your proposal should clearly communicate the goals and objectives, like how your research paper will communicate the aims and objectives, right? So think about all this. Think about the budget and all you should have in hand before you start the proposal. It's not that you can work on your budget. Of course, you know how much you need to spend on it, right? So in case if the grant, if they are ready to pay you till 10 lakhs, not that you have to make use of all that money. Probably if you can cut it down to 7 lakhs or 6 lakhs itself, it's good. You are showing that you are someone who's good in working out to cut out the cost. So you be very open in honestly communicating how much money you really need. So be very clear and clarify whatever doubts they might have when they read. No, they shouldn't be having any doubts. It should be like that. So ensure that you go into a lot of explanation when it comes to talking about your research aims and objective. So be organized and draft the application section, and there might be many attachments that you have to give apart from your curriculum vitae. They might ask you certain publication samples you might need to upload. This and all is something that I have experienced. It's not just the proposal alone. Sometimes they ask you upload best publications that you've done related to this field. So that's when you will know how important it is for you to have that publication record. So when you publish papers, have all this in mind. Ensure that you put your entire effort into publishing papers in good journals, because that will definitely back you up when you are planning to pitch in a proposal. So when they ask you to upload papers, choose wisely. You know what are like your two, three best papers out of the whole bunch. Pick them up and upload it, because they will end up reading those papers also, because they want to know whether your publication record matches with your proposal components, whether your publication record matches with your research aims and objectives, because they believe that is the necessary background a person should have before getting involved deeper into this research. Your language is very important. Yesterday, I was talking to you about the academic phrases, right? I highlighted few things and I was explaining that to you. There is a difference between academic and non-academic writing. Please have it in mind. Although it can be, it's not that you have to use flowery words or purposely use words that might sound very unclear, or words that make people to check the dictionary or check online the meaning. That alone doesn't make a good research writing, right? But the way you use simple words also to make a deeper impact. So yesterday I was talking about how the words that you should use in your introduction session, right? The words that you should use in your conclusion section. So you should know the knack of using such academic words and languages, and that is very important. And avoid using too technical language, which is like, if you have to use those jargons and all, make sure you explain it in detail. So be consistent with the terms, references, writing style throughout. Make it as professional as possible. So your reviewers are your primary audience. Yes, you have a panel of reviewers who will go through your research proposal, and only they have to say, oh, for example, if it's 5 reviewers, at least, the majority 3 people should be okay with your research, 3 to 4. Always there'll be people who will not agree, but that's fine. But you should be able to convince the majority of people there. So make sure your research goes stronger in that. In case if you have to add your diagrams or figures, like numbers that you have to really quote, and you have bar graphs, pie charts, this and all, if you add these kind of graphics, this will show that you have done a lot of research planning. Because if you include numbers, if you include that kind of quantitative methodology, quantitative data, they know that you've done real research, and you put in that statistics, it definitely improves or enhances your proposal content. So this is something that you should have in mind when you're sending it across to the funding agencies. And also ensure that your reviewers can readily grasp and understand the proposal, what you're trying to propose, and summarize your application. That's very important. Probably towards the end, you can just give like how you would summarize, a conclusion is important. And then clarify unusual or complex elements. So if you're using any terms, or if there is any criteria that you want to explain in detail, do that. In case you think it'll be a little difficult, because imagine not all the people in the peer review panel will be aware of the project that you have in your mind, right? Of course, they are experts in the field, but they will have their own doubts, right? It shouldn't be ambiguous. It shouldn't keep on raising a lot of doubts. So make sure it communicates things carefully. That's very important. Again, do a lot of self editing before you even show it to your other mentors or people, faculty members, or any other experts who can help you out. So there will be no tolerance for typo errors, misspellings, or grammatical mistakes or messy formatting. This and all is not acceptable at this level of your research. So ensure you edit yourself, your piece of article, do a lot of self editing to see all the elements in the proposals are coming out properly. And then you can obviously circulate it for peer check, and people will be able to give you feedback on that. And also ask a lot of I mean, I would suggest that you can connect with a lot of people who are there around, who have already applied for this. They can give you an idea. Probably if they have gone through it successfully, their proposal has been accepted, you can find those people and ask them their help. In case if you are in the proposal preparing stage, they'll be able to tell you, what is really expected out of this particular institution. So somewhere you will be able to get some insights from them. See if it's possible to get connected with those people in your process of networking. So this is the general idea, the general criteria for fund allocation is put here. So initial screening happens based on the proposal you give. And if you see, once the proposal is the beginning stage, right, you send across the proposal, and then the screening happens to check if you are eligible. And the topic's novelty, again, the innovative aspect is very, very important. That's what makes it to stand apart. The merit, the feasibility, potential, everything has to be highlighted, right? What is different for you? I mean, like how does it stand out for you? That's very important. And the impact your particular research is going to create, the long term impact. And any ethical considerations have to be addressed properly. An assessment of your expertise. That's why I told they'll be asking your curriculum vitae. How they are going to assess your expertise will be with your publication records and how much research you have done, how you have involved yourself thoroughly in this research. And then how the proposal is aligning with the priorities of the funder. Because the funder, the agency, or the institution will have their own roles, their own expectations, mission, vision, and things like that. Make sure it gets aligned properly. And then the budget has to be justified properly because it deals with money. So you have to justify why are you using this kind of a why this amount of money is used for this kind of an activity. So you should be very clear with that as well. So impact of a well written grant application, it improves if the proposal is written well. Definitely that application process itself will be you will feel that you have done it right, and there are more chances of it getting selected. It brings a positive impression on the funders, and the scores from reviewers would be high. And definitely this will also help you to enhance collaboration opportunities. Imagine once you get through this whole process, if you receive this project, definitely it's going to improve your status as a researcher, and your visibility in this particular research field will highly improve. Because from a researcher you've become a real-time researcher, because now it's a project in hand, not a paper in hand. Of course, after finishing the project, you will be submitting a thesis or something, but you'll be working on it practically. For example, I am working on developing the website, right? So I am practically working on it. Once I'm done with it, of course, I also submitted a report with 100 plus pages on what I did. But then when the website comes out, I know this is something practical. This is a product which has come out because of my research, because of my contribution to that research. And that website will go live in the university's website associated with central government. My name would be there. I'll be associated with that. I know it's a real-time practical research project that I was working with. And this will bring in more opportunities for me. This will also add value to my profile. So these are the impact of a well-written grant application, which will escalate you to further steps. So now this is the standard components of a research proposal. If you see, some of them are already similar to our research paper. So what are the things that we already saw in the research paper? We saw the title page, abstract, introduction, literature review, but the rest of them would sound little different because it's project. So we have to talk about budget, we have to talk about timeline. Reference is nothing but bibliography, because you are referring to a lot of secondary sources, right? When you are explaining about your project, so you will give reference to that. So what is a cover letter? Usually even in jobs, people ask for cover letters, right? You just don't apply sending your CV just like that. There's a cover letter that you write, and that captures the funder's attention. The goal of this cover letter is to compel your reader to continue reading your proposal. Again, I'm saying these are all standardized components, not necessarily it should be the exact way, but This is how mostly it is. You can prepare your proposal in this way, but if one or two components change, you can make the adjustments accordingly for according to the suit the purpose of the funding agency. So sometimes if you see some of the agencies, they don't ask for cover letter. It's only a proposal that matters, but some of them insist that they need the cover letter. So just in case it's needed, you should be able to know how to go about it. So the goal is to compel your reader to continue reading your proposal. So you will keep it short. You won't keep every detailed analysis or explanation of your research will not go into the cover letter, because that will be carried forward by the research proposal. So you need not worry about that. You be direct and you avoid repeating yourself constantly. You are going to say everything in your proposal in detail. This is just going to specify how much of money you need, what is your research project, and in 2 lines, the summary of the grant that needs to be funded. Okay, so it's basically like you're just putting it in the your interest. You're expressing your interest to receive that grant, and why do you want to? What is your project about? Probably in 2 lines, you can just quickly explain in the content of the letter. That should be more than enough. And then comes the abstract. We know what an abstract is. We have seen, what an abstract, the role of an abstract for a research paper. So here in your proposal, your abstract needs to be again brief, as any abstract would have to be. You introduce yourself and your institution. In case if you're an independent researcher who's claiming the grant, but mostly the chances are very less unless it's a seed grant, seed fund that you would want to from your institution that you're working in. But otherwise, it's going to be a group, a team of members who are going to apply for the particular grant. So talk about your team, your institution. What is your project name, the title of your research project, and who is it intended to help, the target audience who will be benefiting, what problem you're going to solve, why should it matter. Again, here comes the research problems, right? The research problems / research questions. Why do you need to address them and why does it matter? What is the end goal and how will you measure whether you achieved it? So, what is the outcome? We are all very much outcome focused here because it's a project, it's a practical component. We want to know what is the outcome. Like even in your research paper, the conclusion is very important, right? Because that's what is going to talk about your key findings. So, we want to know what you're going to achieve. We are very much focused on the outcomes of the project. It should be completely outcome based. And how will you measure the achievements? That is very important. What is the scale that you're going to use to measure the achievement? So, for example, do you have a target audience? If you see in your area, a particular field of research, if you're going to achieve, if you're going to train, for example, my research project might be soft skill training for underprivileged women. This is my aim. This is my research project. So probably I will connect with any government schemes or government funding agency, and I'll ask them, I need so much money. My idea is to train underprivileged women in certain soft skills. So what are the skills I'm going to train? Within a year of time, how many women I can really target and how can I train them? So can you see the questions that are actually coming in, right? So this is how I'll achieve my success. So what is my aim? Probably within a year, I would want to train like 500 plus women, and they should gain the skill. And what is my idea? They know they should not only gain the skill, they should be able to make a living out of it. They should be able to craft a livelihood out of it. Probably they would learn to any life skill that I can teach them. Maybe it's going to be tailoring or something. I will teach them that they can learn it, and then they will start earning money with that. They will be showing is this month, this is the money I earned out of the skill that I learned. Then my project has come to a success. So this is how you will quantify your achievement in that project, and how much money you need and how do you plan. Budget is very important. That is also one explanation that you will give in your abstract, probably in a line or so. And why do you think these funds will help you? Why should you get them? And keep it very less. Again, you can keep it in a page length because every component will be explained in detail in your proposal. So introduction can talk about you, your institution, your team who's going to apply for the proposal, apply for the fund. It's about the institution. Then talk about which institution you are from, what are the vision, mission, goals, and talk about the key team members of the project, the founding year, or talk about the familiarity, the popularity of your institution, so that the funding agency will know that yes, it's a credible institution, I can go ahead supporting them. And then why is your organization the right candidate to fulfill the need? So if you are going to submit the proposal on behalf of your college or university or behalf of your team or behalf of your research institute or whatever it is, you have to communicate why do you think you are the right person for it. Imagine it's just going to be one grant and so many researchers are competing, so many institutions are competing for that. So it's like a job, right? So you should ask the question to yourself, why am I the right person? Why am I the right person to carry out this? And for this, you should have answers in your research proposal also. Now, when it comes to project description, you will talk about the goals and objectives of the research. What's exactly your aims and objective, like your research paper. You provide information on the benefits of sponsoring because I have taken the money from you. What are the benefits I can really see? So the funding agency would want to know, I'm going to give you this much money. What is going to be the benefit out of this research project? So think about this and try to answer this question. So clearly describe the desired outcome and how will you measure the success, and also briefly talk about the methods and strategies. Outline each requirement. So whichever method you're going to use, what does it require? For example, if I want to collect data in a particular field, how much money I will be requiring, what is the human resource that I will be requiring, what is the time frame that I'll be taking to complete. So try to take it, component wise and give a clarity. The more you break it down and focus on every component of your research, the funder will know that yes, you are getting things clearly, you are going in the right way, and higher chances of your proposal being selected. Time frame is nothing but the roadmap to achieve your goal. So for example, if it's going to be a project that's going to go for 2 years, so you can say within 3 months, imagine the training that I was talking about. I'm going to give life skill trainings to underprivileged women. So within 3 months, I will first collect the databases of whom I identify as underprivileged women, which category I'm going to take up, and which area I'm going to focus. Probably the collection of data will be over within 3 months. Within first 6 months, I would have targeted 100 women. I would have targeted 200 women. The next 2 months, I'll be hiring people who can train these women in those skills. So can you see how systematically I'm breaking down? So probably within a year, I would have completed training 200 women in this particular skill, and they will be ready to start their business, come up with a business of their own, startup or an initiative, or they can also form groups, right? We have self-help groups and all. So they can form teams with other women and they can come up with their own business. So this will start from the second year onwards. So towards the end of the second year, I can show that I have trained 500 women from the research grant that I've got. I have impacted their lives and I have made them self-sufficient by teaching them one or two life skills, and now they are making money out of it. So with that, I can also show the proof that the training has happened and I've hired certain people for training, all this. So you can see it's a roadmap which will clearly tell the funding agency that I am oriented towards achieving my goals of the research. So build a time plan. Any vagueness in this, please remove it. Ensure that you're not confused with the time plan. You make sure that you have certain things to achieve. In case if you are going to publish certain paper as a part of your research project, mention that also. Within 6 months, I'm planning to publish one research paper. Within a year, I'm planning to publish an academic monograph. All this has to come out clearly. Make it as specific and as clear as possible. Then comes budget preparation. The significance, we have already been dealing with that. I'm telling you that's important because money is involved. So the funding agency's requirements should align with the budget that you've prepared. So probably you can put it in a spreadsheet under different heads and categories. You add whatever items you have to purchase for this project, the number of items you need, and how many years you need them. Because sometimes you have to buy certain equipments. If I'm going to train women for in tailoring and all, I have to buy the sewing machines. How many of them do I need? So I should buy that. I should show that it's an equipment for me, how many years I'll be using them. And also when you talk about equipment, talk about the maintenance cost also that you'll be using, right? And also the purchase. So if I have to purchase certain items, there are certain rules or guidelines that I have to follow. And then who are the people I'm going to recruit? So I will need a research assistant, I will need a project fellow, I will need a field investigator. Who are the people I'm planning to recruit and how much salary I'm planning to give them? And avoid errors in calculation. Make sure the numbers come out neatly. So double check on that. And then, if, for example, these are the categories that generally we'll focus on. We'll focus on staffs that you're going to appoint and the consumables. That is like every time you need to buy those products again and again. So that is a recurring expense. Non-recurring expense is equipment. So once I buy that machine or something, unless there is a maintenance cost, I need not keep buying it again and again. So that's non-recurring. Other than recurring and non-recurring, I have miscellaneous expenses also, right? So travel and institutional overheads like telephone, water, electricity, all these expenses. So when I'm recruiting my staff also, you justify in detail. For example, what are the skill sets that you are checking out when you are taking a staff, when you are employing a staff? So for example, if you are already, if in university or in college, if you're going to take help of a staff who's already employed, You need not pay them separately. They'll just assist you in that particular administrative work. So show that as a zero cost, right? So you need not, give a payment for them because they're already permanent employee of that organization. They're just going to assist you in that. So in that way, you can cut down the cost. For example, you're preparing a website as a part of your research project. Are you planning to outsource it to any consultancy? So if you're doing so, what is the cost involved? Same way for equipment, what is the model you're purchasing? And check all those little details even when you go for buying those things. Do you really need that? So check. Everything has to be double checked and be clear communicating with your numbers. And finally, you close it with a reference. Once the timeline is done, then the reference happen. Because literature review, I haven't dealt with that because that's something that we dealt yesterday itself. It's the same that will work out for your proposal as well. Maybe you have read a lot of articles, you have read a lot of news reports, or you have read every material related to why your project needs to start rolling in. Why should it, operate? Why is it necessary for you to conduct this project at this time? For supporting that, you must have read a lot of resource materials. You can talk on that. You can talk about the research gap there. And for that, you can give a reference, the bibliography of it. That with that, I think I'm done with the presentation. Here, I would like to show you a sample proposal. For example, before that, I'll just go to this ICSSR website just to give you an idea as to how all this. Yeah, if you see, ICSSR has this website. Are you all able to see my screen? I've just moved on to another. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am, it is
ma'am.
Okay.
visible.
It's
So
visible.
you can
Yes,
see
ma'am. Yes,
Indian.
ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. So you can see Indian Council of Social Science Research. So if I click that, I have a lot of, so this is one government institution that gives out grants and funds. So in that, if you see, there are fellowships, there are research projects. So these two will be, research survey and publication. But you can go through fellowships for checking out the national fellowships they give, senior fellowships, postdoctoral fellowships I was talking about. So doctoral fellowship. So you can go through each one and see what are their requirements. So same way here, if you see research projects, I'm selecting that. So under research projects, you see the different they will give their specific objectives. So you can see if it's aligning with your proposal. So can you see here, it says major and minor grants, right? Research project, and you have research program, and you have special calls for research studies. So major and minor project funds are the ones that I was talking about. So you can go through what are the research projects, the eligibility for applying for that project. So you have minor project, the duration is 12 months, budget is 15 lakh. Major project duration is 24 months, budget is 30 lakh. So what is the application procedure, the important points, everything is given. Like this, it will be there for any funding agency, any funding institution. So you need to go through all these guidelines. See, guidelines itself is mentioned separately. The format and performer, right? What are the things that you have to submit along with it? So you have this whole thing that is given there. You can go through that. Contact details is given. So when I click the guidelines, I think it will take me to a PDF document. So how to go through each and every requirement. You can see the broader areas of research, right? So if it's very small, I can just be, yeah. So it is talking about the broad domains, the priority areas. So see if your research is aligning with any one of them. So if you're from management field, commerce field, you're from social work, under that, what are the things they're focusing on? So for example, if it's a social anthropology, these are the three things that you're talking about. So same way for everything, even if it's culture studies, it's life, literature, thought in India. So you have literature also coming here under the rubric of cultural studies, right? So all this, we have Sanskrit studies. So these are just examples to show you there are many topics that's available. Of course, the process is a little lengthier, but then with proper guidance and having a clear idea as to what this particular agency requires, you can go ahead with this. And this is one example of a funding agency that you can really take help into. And then for science, there's quite a lot of things. If you just type in, you will have you have SERB, SERB. So they keep giving out. So you have UGC gives out a lot of funding projects. So if you go to this UGC portal, you have fellowships, you have grants that is given to professors. You can go for everything you go through, you have this guidelines that's clearly mentioned. And keep checking out the open call for papers, which will give you idea as to maybe you can set some alerts or subscribe to the newsletters or
Ma'am,
period announcement. Yeah.
I see.
What
Ma'am,
happened? No, no,
ICSSR is not.
Yeah, tell me.
ICSSR is not for science student.
You have science also, but more focus on social sciences more than you can go through their
Okay,
website
ma'am.
and check. Okay. So here I
Okay,
would
okay.
like to
Thank you, ma'am.
conclude my presentation, and this is my QR code for my LinkedIn account where I'm very active and I work on intersections of research, literature, and psychology. I conduct frequent workshops and I share a lot of information related to that. You can write to me for further networking, collaboration, and all that. I will share the LinkedIn ID also. You can scan this code. You can send me an invitation. We can connect, and there's a lot of things, interesting things. Like I've just given you a bird's eye view of that in these 3 days. So hope it has helped, and thank you so much. I think I've taken quite some time, but then I hope it should have been of help to you. Thank you so much for being there, and yeah, I end my presentation here, and I'll take any questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for insightful session. I am sure we all took a lot of valuable lessons on how to apply and get research grants and funds with best approach. Now it's time for our
Thank you.
interactive segment. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or drop them in the chat box. Let's make this a dynamic discussion.
Okay, so if my doing my research in air pollution, should I write a book chapter in plastic or soil pollution if I come to know? See, if you're doing in air pollution, is it, yeah, you can see, do you think writing a book chapter in plastic or soil pollution is something which is going to be connected with your main idea? Just check that. And then see, for example, all types of pollution, some way or the other, it's interconnected, I would say. So why just you don't give it a try?
Okay.
Don't be so rigid. Don't be so rigid and
Okay, ma'am.
just keeping yourself into that. But just give it a try and see, because we want you to get it published. So you can go and check it on that. It's I wouldn't say don't do that.
Okay, ma'am.
I would say like don't stop thinking about all this interconnectedness is very much there in any research. So please go ahead and check it out and publish it. Improve
Okay,
your
ma'am.
publication profile.
Sure,
I'm
ma'am.
sharing
Thank you,
my
ma'am.
LinkedIn profile. So that's there. Come out in the chat box. So people who are there in LinkedIn, please go and connect with me. And whoever is not having an account, young scholars out there, please go and have an account and just check all the posts there and make yourself available to be connected with other researchers, because it's a collaborative journey overall. And thank you so much for all the feedback. I'm very grateful, and it's a Sunday, and I have so much people here, listening to my session. I'm very grateful for that. Happy also. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you, ma'am. What an incredible and informative 3 days it has been. On behalf of our St. Teresa Degree College for Women, our organizing team, SEMS Welfare Foundation representatives, and our participants, I'd like to express our deepest gratitude to our resource person, Dr. N. Safri, for sharing her knowledge and enhancing our research skills. Thank you very much, ma'am. It was truly wonderful to have learning from you.
Thank you so much.
I'm privileged to thank our principal for her support in all our endeavors. Thank you, sister. I thank our vice principal, Mrs. Malika ma'am, and our organizing team for every single effort and contribution in organizing this program. Special thanks to Lakshmi ma'am and Atul sir from SEMS Welfare Foundation, because of whose efforts and initiative we could get such an eminent speaker. Thank you, ma'am and sir. Lastly, I would like to thank our audience for participating in our 3 days national level faculty development program and making this event a huge success. We hope you are leaving with valuable insights and actionable knowledge.